Happy Friday and welcome to episode 161 of the weekly recap. This is another special edition with two extra special guests, two of our community members, Luiz and Mark, both of them part of the Veeam 100 program. Welcome, both of you. This is the first time we are having you in the recap, and I believe in any of our shows, you are also very new to the Veeam 100 program. I know not that new to the community, but to the Veeam 100 program. So how are you today, Luiz, Mark?
Hi, Madi. Hello from Brazil. I'm very happy to be here with you and Mark for this weekly recap. Thanks so much.
Thank you for accepting the invite. Mark?
Hi, Maddie. Thank you for having me. It's a lovely, gloomy day here in the UK, as usual, I think we'll find. And yeah, I'm looking forward to being on this with yourself and Luiz.
Absolutely. This is definitely my pleasure to have you both with me. So before we actually start going over the article, I would like to have you do like a short introduction for me and for the audience today, because I know that you interacted with few of the community members, but not everyone knows you. So Luiz, would you like to give us a short introduction about yourself? Maybe tell us for how long you've been in the community, for how long you've been in, like in the Veeam 100 program, just like a short introduction.
Sure. Thanks. Madalena, I have been working with Veeam solutions for about 4 years, and having been part of the community for over a year. I'm honored to be part of the Veeam Vanguard program. I'm new in the Veeam Vanguard program. And I'm new also in the Veeam 100 group. I hope to contribute to the community in the advocate to the Veeam solutions. Well, I'm available to help as I can to grow and to add more content to the Veeam community. Thanks so much.
Thank you, Luiz. And Mark?
Hi, I'm Mark. I'm a product lead for a company in the UK. So I've probably been using Veeam for probably in excess of 10 years now. I contribute frequently on the forums and more recently now on the community hub as well. So I've probably been on the forums probably around about 7 or 8 years, and it's brilliant. So I'm a second time Veeam Vanguard. So sorry, not Vanguard, Legend. So I'll be coming up to 1 year as a member of the Veeam 100, and it's a brilliant program. It's really engaging and just personifies exactly what the community is about.
Yeah, absolutely. And I'm sure you guys are looking forward for the Veeam 100 Summit, right? In October. So yeah, that's a great experience. So looking forward to see you, both of you there. So yeah, thank you very much for that, for the short introduction. Now that everyone knows who are you, what you are doing, I would actually like to move forward and actually start discussing the articles that we selected for today. What do you think? Are you ready for that?
Yes.
Let's go.
Let's go.
Okay, so let me just then share my screen in here. Okay, so let's talk about Nico's article, the bad practice versus good practice in a real use case. So, like he is discussing a real use case with the customers. There are, these are some of my favorite, if I think about type of articles, because you can learn so much out of others' experience, and I'm pretty sure you agree on that. Basically, asked by one of the big companies that is one of the clients in there in Belgium to perform a backup audit on their infrastructure. And it seems like he found out that their backup setup was not at its best, with a lot of things that were not addressed. So what Nico did was actually suggested a new backup setup with no extra infrastructure cost. And I'm pretty sure the customer must have appreciated that no extra infrastructure cost. And Nico made the necessary changes, and the performance of the backups increased substantially. As we can see, I believe somewhere in here, he says, we actually I tested the performance of the backups, and instead of an average of 30 MBs per second, before, he was now having 500 MBs to 800 MBs. So that's a really great performance. It's a plus minus 20% performance increase. So this is actually very, very good, and at the end of his article, there is another thing that actually I really liked about this article is he says, like, like many companies believe that I will just buy Veeam backup solution. It's a great product, easy to set up, and then they might be right when it comes to that. It is easy to set up. It's a good solution. But, do you know how to do the right setup for your environment? Do you have the expertise to do the setup for your environment? Sometimes that experience that you get over years makes the difference between like a poor performance, a good performance, being able to avoid a cyber attack, or being the victim of a cyber attack, and so on and so forth. But I would like to also know your point of view. So, Luis, would you like to share with us what is your point of view when it comes to this article? What do you think of Nico's experience?
Sure, Madi. This is an excellent post because Nico describes a real case of a customer with a poorly implemented and configured environment. Correctly implementing any kind of solution is a critical for it to provide the expected benefits as you described. And I think that there are many details, and there are many kinds of configurations that must uh, be part of the project, of the concept of the network, and of the concept of the environment as whole. And I think that the customer must always seek for help, as you said, from qualified professional like Nico. If there are any trouble with your performance or configuration issues or doubts, I think that it is an excellent sample of this kind of situation. And I really appreciate this post.
Thank you very much, Luis. Good points in there. And Mark?
Yeah, I think it's becoming an increasingly common issue that Nico's identified here, where Veeam is so easy to deploy and companies think because it's easy, we don't need to invest in the staff to do it. And Nico's used his experience. He's a certified architect as well, and he's put all his certified skills and his knowledge as well to good use in line with the best practices. I just think it goes to show, if companies invest in the right people and the right training, by a factor of 20 times, those improve their backups. It's an issue that could be easily avoided by proper planning.
Yeah, absolutely. I totally agree. See, even the customer said to him, "You're a true wizard." I think he's not a wizard, like I'm sure he appreciated the comment, but it's all about the expertise, the years of experience that Nico has, and knows how to set it up for each of those environments. So that would make the difference totally. So yeah, thank you very much for your points, all of them valid. Thank you, Nico, very much for this great article. Please bring it on if you have more situations. We always appreciate these use cases. So moving forwards from a legend to an MVP, who is Brad Lynch. And I'm going to start with this because, as you can see, like the beginning at the end, of his article is written in a very funny way. I'm going to just say that, Brad, we promise not to tell your mom you talked money in here. If you promise, you come back with more articles. Deal? So, yeah. Now, going to more serious conversation. Brad is doing a great job in offering us a cost comparison on backing up with the major cloud vendors, AWS, Azure, and Google Cloud. He says there is always like a hidden cost. The title says that, hidden cloud costs of backup with these three vendors. And, like moving forward, he says, many companies would use those three vendors because I think in here he says like, there is an advantage. It's being very easy to deploy. So, like in many cases, it's just like a checkbox to enable it. So, it is, but then it is more, he explains it in these paragraphs in here, it is more complex than that, especially when you increase your workloads. Who is going to manage those? What are some costs that are adding up? What about the storage cost? That is, he says somewhere here, like, it's not always, finding that backend storage cost is not always so simple. So it's kind of adding up to your cost. And here he kind of gives us, if you look at it, he's giving us example for all three vendors, showing the total cost of ownership. And honestly, look at those prices. It looks really, really like pricey. You have first Azure, with this total, and then he goes over the Google Cloud that is also super high. AWS backup TCO example, that's high as well. And he's also offering an alternative. If we look down here, with Veeam backup, and shows us how that can save us some dollars when compared to the other three main vendors. Now, my question to you is like, do you guys like use cloud? Are you into cloud or not really? And what is your takeaway out of this article? Luis, would you like to start?
Yes, sure. I think that Brad wrote an excellent article because it's a fundamental characteristic of public cloud that organizations often do not correctly address. It's specifically related to the public cloud costs. And I really appreciate the TCO analysis Brad performance here. It's fantastic because it's very detailed, and he is demonstrating how customers can save money using Veeam solutions to protect cloud workloads. And we have the other aspect here because we have been seeing many companies repatriating workloads from public cloud to on-premises. It's due in many cases due a lack of cost control and visibility. I think that it's excellent post because it's explain the importance to know and to analyze correctly the associated costs from public cloud. I really appreciate. Congratulations, Brad.
Yeah, thank you for that, Louis. So yeah, definitely when assessing, we look at the cost, we look at what are the needs of our company as well, and then we make the decision based on that. Mark, any thoughts?
Yeah, I just agree with what Luis has said. It's a great article by Brad. I think it just goes to show you need to pay attention and do your due diligence. Just because your cloud provider has a native backup solution, it's not always the best. It might be the simplest in terms of you can just enable it, but you don't understand the mechanism and the costs can quickly spiral, as Brad has shown. So I think it's important to get people with the expertise involved in the early stages and architect a proper solution. Look at your options. Brad's example there of deploying the Veeam agent has saved in the factors of hundreds of thousands of pounds a year. And you think if that grows on scale to 200 VMs, you're quickly hitting savings of £500,000 a year, or you're costing the company £500,000 a year if you've not done that due diligence up front. It's quite scary.
Yeah, indeed. It's like you look at those prices, how they are adding up, and you are like, oh my goodness, because it's a progressive way how he's going from here, and then you see those amounts there, and you are like, oh my goodness, this is like my yearly total. Wow, that's a lot, because it's adding up. That's the thing, like things that are probably hidden costs, as Brad mentioned is. But yeah, really great article, Brad, and we are looking forward for your next contribution at the hub. Moving forward now, let's talk about how to perform Active Directory rename. This is an article by Chris Ermosel, another legend in here. And yeah, what is Chris doing in here? He is basically, he is inspired by an older article, as we can see, that Edwin wrote a few months ago, where he was explaining why .local should not be used as your domain name extension. And then Chris mentions like two reasons why he thinks that we should change the rename Active Directory from .local to .com. And he says like changing the Active Directory domain name from .local to .com is recommended to enhance compatibility and align with best practices when setting up a new AD environment. And the second reason, he says, like the .local top-level domain is not intended for global use in the domain name system. Instead, it is utilized by multicast DNS to facilitate the resolution of host names to IP addresses within small networks eliminated and necessary for a dedicated DNS server. I'm sure there are other reasons, but he just mentioned these two. And then what he's doing is like take us through what do we need for these changes in here. He's talking about what do you need, and then he's giving us, as he used us already with his demos on how to do, like how to install that, how to basically how to demo in here. And he's sharing some print screens as well. And if you are interested to know on how to do it, you just have to basically go in here, and it's really step by step. It's just like a guide all together. And of course, if you get here and you want to do that, I definitely recommend also reading Edwin's Viperian article. This is a really, really good one. and you're going to understand why this is a bad idea. And, like he's going to explain in detail. And then, yeah, it's going to be easier for you to make the decision. But going back to Chris's article, what is your opinions on that, Luis? Would you like to start?
Yes, as you said, I'm not an active director expert, but I would feel very comfortable following the Chris guide when necessary. I think that it's an excellent article, and because active director is a crucial term for any IT administrator. The active director is one of the main targets for cyber criminals looking for privilege escalation actions. And so it's very important to deploy the best practice when deploying and when mm, providing maintenance or upgrading Active Directory. And it's very important, do not use .local and use .com domain name for Active Directory. Congratulations, Chris. I really appreciate it.
Mark, any thoughts?
For me, this sums up the community. It's not typically a Veeam issue. Yes, we can use Veeam to protect AD, but this is, Chris has gone out of his way to provide some really helpful guidance to the community, and it's taken a lot of his time to put together, and it's just a brilliant article. You'd feel comfortable following it, and yeah, I think for me this just sums up the community as a whole and the whole ethos behind it.
Yeah, absolutely. He's just taking, like bits and pieces from each and there. He's also sharing another article that, was inspiration for him. And then he's putting all these together, and he's kind of uh, giving a different perspective, which I think is really great. And as you said, it's not necessarily related to Veeam directly, but it's like technology, and the community is about let's talk technology, right? So yeah, that's really great. Thank you, Chris, once again. Really appreciate again your demo. So yeah, keep on doing what you're doing, because you're doing a good job.
Yes.
And yeah, let's just move to the last article of the day. I think we are breaking the rule once again. Last week we did it. As well, because it was a special edition, and I was like, okay, let's just break the rule. And today we are going to break the rule again, but today we don't have any special department news, and we don't have who's news. So it only makes sense to add an extra article as a bonus. And actually, this is kind of like, if you ask me, a sort of continuation to Nico's great article, because Stabs in here, Philippe from Monaco, is sharing with us another use case. This is also like from a customer. And basically what happened is like the customer contacted him to report extremely slow restoration times during a file restoration process. And then Philippe is just taking us through some technicalities, like some details of that environment. And then he's like telling us, well, I was trying to, like to just go over the history, the log in the history, and try and find what that issue was. He's sharing some print screens as well. And he noticed, of course, that they were not using the Veeam proxy. And then after, he was just like talking a bit with the admin, he was understanding that the VM to which the files were to be restored was in a new VLAN. And then, of course, this is a fault of the network. And then he's explaining in here, like the network openings between the Veeam environment and the production environment for this new VLAN was not set up. And of course, then this time, like after he installed he used the proxy, the restore took only like few seconds. So huge difference from the 1 hour and 30 minutes where they were at the beginning, right? So this is another great example, like of a situation. And I really like the conclusion that he's going over. He says, like, you have to understand the various components. You have to know your environment. You have to test it oftenly. Um, you know, and if you are not like a pro with that backup product, just reach out to experts. They're going to help you to do it right. That goes back to Nico's article. It might just be a cost involved, but um, over time and on the long run is going to save you money, because if you're going to, like suffer a cyber attack or anything like that because of a small issue, a small error in there, you haven't tested it properly and regularly, that might actually cost you the business. So yeah, great article in here, Stubbs. Luis, do you have any opinion on it?
Yes, Madi. In fact, network planning can never be forgotten when implementing or expanding data protection environments or any kind of environment, in fact. It's always important to design and plan all necessary configurations with a network specialist, because the network plays a crucial role in any architecture. Luckily, Stabs was able to analyze the logs presented by Veeam Backup Application and fix the issue. So it demonstrates to us the importance of to verify and correct configuration in terms of network and in terms of connectivity between the elements of the architecture, right?
Yeah, absolutely. Really great points in there, Luis. Mark, any thoughts on it?
Yeah, it highlights the need to, once you've baselined your solution, is to do regular tests on your backups and your restores, and not just run a test and it works. Actually look at it. Is this job taking longer? Because with most organizations, your infrastructure admins are not your backup admins. So, there might be an urgent project. We'll put a new cluster in, new VLANs, and that can have an unintended consequence. So by doing your regular testing, you can pick up these bits that cause unintended consequences down the line by just reviewing and double checking than just it's passed, it works. Actually look at the timings, that kind of thing. I think that's vitally important, especially for large organizations and as their infrastructure grows.
Yeah, definitely. That's a great point as well. And it's always good to, test it. And um, as Tab says in here, this restoration, was not critical and did not require rapid recovery. But what if you need that in a different context? It could be like very time sensitive. So yeah, all these points that you guys mentioned are very, very relevant. And thank you, Stubbs, for this short article, but very, very good, learning experience for all of us. So yeah,
Yeah.
thank you so much. So I think we are kind of done with the content now. Thank you very much for sharing this your thoughts on these articles with me and with the Veeam community, with our members. I would like you to ask for any final thoughts that you might have. Um, before we actually close? Please.
Yes, thanks, Madalena. Thanks, Mark. Uh, it was a great pleasure to be here with you. And V1 is coming, and as always, we are waiting for big news. I'm sure the Veeam team has been working hard on new capabilities and enhancements for the Veeam data platform, Veeam Data Cloud, and Veeam services provider tools. Let's verify it on the next Veeam one. Thanks so much, so much. I really appreciate it. Thanks.
Absolutely, Luis. And I'm looking forward to meet you in Fort Lauderdale at VMon this year. Hopefully, you're going to make it. And I'm looking forward to meet all the Vim community in there. I'm sure there are a lot of there is a lot of information that is going to be shared, and it's going to be a great event as always. And yeah, thank you for accepting my invite. Mark, any final thoughts on your side?
Yeah, I think my main takeaways from the articles today are best practices, best practices, best practices, and keep testing. Always keep testing. Just because you put it in, don't neglect it and leave it alone. Always be testing and looking for those bottlenecks. And yeah, thank you very much for having me on. Thank you, Lewis. And it's been a pleasure. Thank you.
Thank you, Mark, as well. Thank you, Luis. And thank you all for watching us today. Have a great weekend, and we'll see you next week, maybe in normal circumstances. But I don't believe that because I will actually be on the road and I'm not sure where Rick is going to be. So, yeah, stay tuned. It's going to be a surprise.